You might not hear about them as often, but Russian atrocities in Ukraine are continuing to occur all the time. This week, the city of Vinnytsia, which is far from the front lines of the war, was hit with a Russian cruise missile. Liza Dmitrieva, a 4-year-old Ukrainian girl with Down syndrome, was killed in that attack. Her mother, Irina, was gravely wounded. This as Russian forces are bragging about destroying NATO weapons in a series of missile strikes, the same strikes that killed Liza. Joining me now is Congressman Rajna Krishnamurthy, who just returned from a congressional delegation to parts of Europe with members of the House Intel Committee. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. First, I'd like to get your reaction to this horrific story that we were just reporting on.
It was yet another outrageous, vicious, and savage attack that's a war crime. Amen. I think that this hardens resolve in support of the Ukrainians. It also, I believe, makes it less likely that the Ukrainians are going to cave to Putin. At the end of the day, I think that their morale remains very high, and these atrocities and the viciousness of the Putin-led invasion, I think, only cause them to fight harder.
What did you experience during the congressional delegation to parts of Europe? What, if anything, did it, change in your perspective one way or the other about this war?
Well, I think I had, three observations. One is that morale is extremely high among our troops, our allies, and the Ukrainians. And there's a recognition that the Ukrainians are fighting a war so that we don't have to, and they're fighting for democracy, so the stakes couldn't be higher. I think the second thing I took away is that the way in which the Ukrainians fight is superior to the way in which the Russians fight. Namely, the Ukrainians have a decentralized, do whatever it takes to win approach, whereas the kind of top-down command and control way in which the Russians fight has largely been ineffective where it's been tested. And then the third point is that the Ukrainians are really doing an excellent job of deploying our highly sophisticated weapon systems, such as the HIMARS, the high mobility artillery rocket systems, to inflict deep losses far behind enemy lines, especially on ammunition dumps, command outposts, and radars.
From an intelligence perspective, and I should note you traveled with other members of the House Intelligence Committee, from an intelligence perspective, did you learn anything that leads you to believe an end is near, or that we may be in a different phase of this conflict than we were just a couple weeks ago or perhaps months ago?
I think it's a different phase, Eamon. I think that it's more of a war of attrition at this point. Although the Ukrainians have a lot of advantages, one of the advantages the Russians have is a lot of artillery. They are outgunning the Ukrainians. That being said, there are two things that I think help the Ukrainians. One is they are receiving these increasingly more sophisticated shipments of weaponry that they're deploying very rapidly. And the second thing is that the Russians are starting to run out of people to throw into the combat. Now they are starting to have to potentially recruit from prisons. They're paying mercenaries and others to get into the conflict. The president of Russia, Putin, does not want to call a general conscript of Russian citizens, again, because he sees that as potentially causing popular uproar. So I think the longer this lasts, I think it does hurt the Russians. And we have to stand firm with the Ukrainians.
What do you think of Vladimir Putin now set to make this rare trip abroad to the Middle East? He's looking to cement his ties with Iran and Turkey, which, of course, is a NATO member. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there are two things. One, he is increasingly having to rely on other countries for drones and other equipment because of the sanctions that we've put in place that prevent him from, kind of resupplying the army with high precision armaments and more sophisticated weaponry. The semiconductors that the world community has denied the Russians makes it very hard for them to create those types of weapons that they need for the battle. So they go to Iran and other places. The second thing is we absolutely have to put pressure on Iran with our multilateral partners to make sure that they don't ship these drones and other types of weapons to the Russians. And then the third and final point is it's all the more reason why we have to step up our shipment of weaponry to the Ukrainians. And that might mean more sophisticated drones, but it also might mean other types of armaments that we've withheld up to this point.
I'm sure you've probably seen this. Fox News host Tucker Carlson, a longtime Putin apologist, said at a conference this week that he really doesn't care what Putin does in Ukraine. You got to wonder if that's going to resonate with millions of Americans who watch his show. But I wanted to give you a chance to respond to that, to make the case why we should all care about what happens there.
My constituents care about what happens in Ukraine. I think the vast majority of Americans care. I personally believe that the vast majority of Americans believe that the Ukrainian people are fighting for democracy all over the world, not just in Ukraine, and that we will stick by the Ukrainians through thick and thin, and we will not cave to Putin.